Time now for the Daily Answer, sponsored by Salem Surround on The Answer Now TV.
I told Eddie that I was trying my best to keep myself at bay because I found myself yesterday. I was glad I had the distraction of football to watch because I was starting to read the details of this worship service being disrupted yesterday. My friend and colleague, who is the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, Albert Mohler, actually said, I'm going to do something I never do, and I'm going to post on social media on Sunday just to call this out and commend this pastor for standing up. And if you're just joining us and you don't know the story, long story short, a bunch of these left-wing radical activist protesters stormed into and this happened to be a Southern Baptist Convention church, SBC affiliated church, just so you know, that's the denomination. And full transparency, that is the denomination that I have just joined in the last 4 years. This is one of the few institutions left that the left has not completely destroyed. And so I'm mindful that they've been coming after it for a while, and it's certainly not perfect. No denomination is. I get it. I'm not getting into a theological or denominational debate with you, but my point is the one thing that the SBC has largely tried to do is remain biblically true. Stick to Scripture. If it ain't in the book, that's the guidepost. That's the guardrail. So it does not surprise me that the American left decided to target this particular church. They claim it's because that somebody inside that church is affiliated with the regional ICE, or I guess the field office director of ICE, apparently, a guy called David Eastwood is a pastor there, the resident pastor there. He was not there. They also can't prove at this hour, as I understand it, whether or not this same David Eastwood that's listed as the regional field officer is also the pastor. They don't know. I mean, media cannot confirm that it's the same guy anyway. He wasn't even at this service. Don Lemon and a bunch of goons go storming in. Here's Jonathan Parnell, the pastor who was in the pulpit as these people storm into the service and disrupt it. Give me number 92 here, Paul.
This is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yes. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to
chronicle what happened? Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Yeah. See, this is where I've got to... Don Lemon proclaiming at an altar in a church that he's just disrupted, I'm a Christian. You know, America did not lose its mind overnight. It happened in deliberate stages. I was thinking about this over the weekend. This is always centered around control by the left. Always. Control has always been their obsession. And once you see the pattern by the American left, you cannot unsee it. And it all really started in earnest under the Obama era. And it started out fairly casually and grew and escalated to the point we find ourselves yesterday. It started by them trying to control the language. For instance, if you criticized Obama, what were you? You were a racist. This was the era of safe spaces and microaggressions and trigger warnings and campus speech codes. Words became unsafe, and thus you and I had to be silenced. Comedians. I wrote about this extensively in the early 2010s, late 2000s, early 2010s. Guys like Seinfeld and Chris Rock stopped performing college campuses because students could not tolerate jokes without being offended. or shutting down a comedy show. The formula is always the same. Label ideas as dangerous, control the language, control the thought, and then you get to control which viewpoints survive. But language control couldn't silence guys like me, or guys like Rush, or humor, and true comics. And so the American left understood they had to escalate things. And so when Donald Trump won the election in 2016, it became control through narrative. Hillary's defeat snapped something inside the activist left, who before were just trying to control our speech, but then they went to the next level. Persuasion gave way to fabrication. All the Russia collusion lies, the leaked phony dossier, FBI abuses, 2 impeachments based on nothing. Their goal, of course, was to rewrite, override reality itself. Trump still governed, and the economy soared. And so, they escalated it even further. Enter the COVID era. Control became through fear and our behavior. Words failed, narratives failed, and so they implemented a level of fear to control our very movement and our behavior. Lockdowns, mandates, closed churches and businesses, mask absolutism, trust the science became dogma, mail-in ballots, totally rejiggering the way we vote in this country with no guardrails. The fear they tried to implement made obedience effortless. Power turned into madness. But then COVID started to fade. Normal life returned for most. And so they escalated further. Post-2020, the battlefield shifted to procedure and control through ballots. Unsecured mail-in systems became standard. Chain of custody of those ballots completely eroded. Questioning the process became blasphemy and a threat to democracy. Remember? The collective denial of what was obvious to everybody. Joe Biden was cognitively incapable of doing the job. He was barely there. And the media and the left writ large all tried to convince you that it was something we were making up. And by the way, if you'll allow me, let me take a short detour, but it's kind of on the same journey. Only because the Kansas City Chiefs aren't in the postseason, shouting rigged every Sunday. That got a little tiresome, and it's born of the same thing. No one cares, all right? Question an election, suddenly you're dangerous. Why? Because elections equal power, equal control. Elections equal power, equal control. Trump would not fold. And so, they escalated, as they always do. Enter the lawfare era. Control through outright coercion. So when narratives and ballots fall short, sheer force arrives. This is where we find ourselves today. The home raids, the gag orders, the criminal charges, the bankruptcy pressure, imprisonment attempts. Some even jailed. Leg irons at the airport against political opponents, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro. Grotesque security lapses, allowing assassination attempts. That's right, I said it, I've been saying it, I'll continue to say it. Donald Trump was allowed to be shot at, I believe that. It's not justice, of course, it's neutralization. But Trump continued to persist. You continued to persist. So, they escalate to the current era. Control thought through street-level chaos. This new Minneapolis showcases the new stage we find ourselves. Weaponized hysteria over criminal behavior and fraud. Kamikaze leftists hurling themselves into confrontations with ICE and even storming houses of worship. This has always been about control. Always. We're just entering a new stage.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel. Stay informed anytime, anywhere with the Salem News Channel and 9:30 a.m. TheAnswer.com. This has been The Daily Answer, sponsored by Salem Surround on The Answer Now TV.